It's high time for France to leave us alone. It's time for France to take a cue from its European neighbors and learn a valuable lesson in independence. Germany is the leading economic power in Europe, significantly surpassing France, which is ranked as the third or fourth largest economic power globally. Germany does not exploit any country, any colony. I can mention Italy, I can mention Spain, who had colonies before, but who do not exploit anyone, who do not interfere, who do not impose leaders in their former colonies. On what grounds does France believe it can continue to impose leaders on us and make choices on our behalf? This must come to an end. It is high time for France to lift its knee off our neck and put an end to this unjust oppression. Centuries of misery, human trafficking, colonization, and neocolonization have caused immeasurable suffering. It's time to put an end to this cycle of oppression, and the emerging Africa, the African youth, the African elites, and the African diaspora all stand united in saying no, it cannot continue any longer. France's hypocrisy is evident and pervasive in daily life. Let's examine the cases of Mali and Chad as prime examples of this hypocrisy. In Chad, where the constitutional process has been interrupted, France applauded and its president visited to officially consecrate the new king's coronation ceremony. In Mali, where it is not the constitutional process that has been interrupted, but the transition process, France has condemned and even packed up its things to say that it is leaving Mali. That's hypocrisy. It's the double standard. It is the double language that France employs in its dealings with Africa. During our questioning of Mr. Jean-Yves Le Drian regarding the situation in Ivory Coast and France's decision to allow a third term, he provided a clear explanation. He stated that while he accepted the third term for Ouattara, he refuses it for Belarus. He emphasized that France has condemned the situation in Belarus and has actively encouraged the European Union to do the same. Le Drian explains that in Belarus, millions protested, unlike Ivory Coast, where there were no mass demonstrations on the streets. This is how France deals with African issues. Personally, we expect absolutely nothing from France. We desire her to cease meddling in our matters so that the people of Senegal can exercise their freedom of choice rather than being influenced by France's selection of a candidate using the tactics we are aware of. We begin by targeting individuals, adorning them with the Legion of Honor or a similar knightly rank, enlisting them in Masonic lodges, and informing them to prepare themselves as they will be next in line. Even the hypothesis that Macky Sall may not succeed, we know who is being prepared by France. This must come to an end. It will not occur in this manner any longer.
The chickens have now come home to roost. We have the chickens coming home to roost, and now the farmer is in trouble. What am I talking about? I'm talking about people of France, particularly the government of France, not necessarily the people of France, because the new president-elect of Senegal, remember Senegal is a French-speaking African country. Senegal is also an Islamic country, and the president of Senegal just couldn't hold it anymore. You know, he waited till he was elected, and he prepared such a powerful message to the president of France, the French government. We all know that the French government has been exploiting Africa, particularly West African states, for the longest time. Come on, guys, it's long past the colonization period. Senegal got its independence many years ago, but a new form of colonization, which is nowadays called neocolonialism, exists in West African countries. We had countries such as Burkina Faso, we had countries such as Niger, we had countries such as Mali. These African countries were colonized by the French. Particularly, the French chose West Africa. You know, in West Africa, we have countries like Nigeria, Ghana, Benin, Togo. These specific countries were not colonized by the French, but it was colonized by the British. The other African countries in the West African states were colonized by the French. British colonization ended. The French colonization did not end. The French government did not want Africans to be free. The president of Senegal is out here warning the president of France they should leave Africa. they should just leave Africa, because it's long since they left. It was enough demolition, enough sacrifice, enough suffering was employed by the Berlin Conference. Africans can't take it no more. We need new leaders such as these, leaders who are not going to be allowed, who are not going to allow themselves to be puppets of the West African countries. I don't have much to say, but to listen to this brother, let's listen to this brother, what he got to say.
Let's be clear. We have absolutely nothing against the French people. In France, both political and citizen voices are rising to hold and express the same discourse as the one I am currently presenting to you. For example, the deputies, such as Mrs. Frédérique Dumas, who regularly speaks on the platform of the Assembly, who regularly writes to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, since she is a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, to raise this unfair behavior of France towards Africa, hold the same speech as us. The same Mr. Jean-Luc Mélenchon, Jean-Paul Lecoq, André Chassaigne, all deputies, hold the same discourse as us, and hundreds of other voices. The NGOs, like other non-profit organizations, are doing remarkable work in the same direction. We strongly urge France to listen to the voices that speak to it about our plan for a more collaborative, fairer, and sustainable partnership between Africa and France. It is crucial that we work together towards a future that is equitable, just, and environmentally conscious. If she listens, I believe we'll have beautiful days ahead in our collaboration together. If he doesn't know how to cut it, thinking he can continue to function like in the time of our grandfathers, this African youth no longer accepts it. France must make preparations for a definitive break and completely withdraw from Africa. Africa belongs to Africans, not France. She belongs to no one else, neither China, nor the United States, nor anyone.
We're going to turn now to Senegal, though, where opposition leader Bassirou Diomaye Faye has been named Senegal's next president after the country's ruling coalition conceded defeat in a nationwide election. The 44-year-old is set to become Senegal's youngest ever president. And he'd been in prison less than 2 weeks before the vote, which followed months of political turmoil in one of Africa's most stable democracies. In his victory speech, Faye promised to deliver a fresh chapter for Senegal.
The people of Senegal have chosen to break with the past, to make real the immense hopes raised by our vision of society.
So now, let's try and look at the case of France. France has been a colonizer. Yeah, they've been colonizing many parts of West Africa, as I told you before, with the exception of countries such as Nigeria, the exception with countries such as Ghana, Togo, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Benin. These 5 countries were colonized by the British. Remember, the Berlin Conference heavily influenced this. And also the president was keen on saying that other European countries such as Germany colonized many parts of Africa as well, They colonized Tanzania. Just down here, Tanzania was colonized by the Germans. When they first introduced socialism, it was the Germans who introduced socialism into Tanzania. Germany also colonized some parts of West Africa, of South Africa, But it was until 1945, when they lost the war, is when the British took over their colonies. But till now, the president said, Germany is one of the fastest growing economies. It's the third superpower. We all see German cars outside here. Those people are really, really good at engineering. They are really good at machinery works. So these people are the third most developed country. But they are not always upon colonizing or puppeteering people. No, they are not doing that. They are believing in themselves. And so the president is comparing the disrespect, actually this is disrespect, that France is having towards African countries. It's like a child who has not overgrown milk They're always sucking the breast. They never grow old. They're always young. This is France. France is like an insect that is feeding on it's like a parasite, and Africa is the host. No matter what, France never wants to leave Africa alone. But now the president has assured Africans, and he has assured myself, I'm a Kenyan, I'm not a Senegalese, but I'm an African. If you see me outside there and you see a Senegalese outside there, you don't see a Kenyan, you don't see a Senegalese. Who you see is an African with a dark skin. We may have religious differences, geographical differences, but in the essence, we are all Africans. If it were not for the Berlin Conference, it would be a very huge land. I would even decide and go there tomorrow or whichever day. But because the Berlin Conference came to be, we were colonized, they took parts and divided it, and they said, you, France, will be colonizing here, British here, there, you know the story. The president is really promising. He's like Ibrahim Traore. The president is like the interim president of Niger and the interim president of Niger. It's a good thing that these people, I believe, they communicate to one another. Take this analogy. When you're in a space where nobody grows, where everybody's just down, you never think that you are actually down. You are just there. You don't know you are down or up. You're just there. Until you see somebody do something is when you realize your position. Senegal has gained the strength and the courage to speak their mind, because they say, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth shall speak. The mouth has spoken, but it has been supported by the neighbors. Who are the neighbors? Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso. You see, this is how Africa is transforming, and it reminds me of the words of Kwame Nkrumah, the first president of Ghana. Ghana was the first African country to gain independence, and Kwame Nkrumah said this: as long as any other single African country is still being colonized, Ghana does not have independence. Because he knew we depend on one another. Kwame Nkrumah, he knew very well that we depended on one another. He knew how bad colonization was, and he knew how bad the colonizers was. It was some people with evil mindset that decided to set him up and overthrow him. But to me, Kwame Nkrumah was one of the best people who speak their mind. And now we are living in a generation of truth. Right now, things are exploring everywhere. Truths are coming out. Even some lies might be coming out because of truth, And now, people are like, we are living in the generation, we are living in the days of Noah. Things are just popping up. So I believe this is a good start for Africa and Africans. And congratulations to the people of Senegal. You've chosen a very good leader. You can know them by their words. You can know them by their actions. Now we've listened to his words. It's now time we wait for his actions. But so far, I'm being optimistic. You should be optimistic that everything is going to be right with the Senegalese. Africa is a one country, and France should leave Africa. Colonizers should not be in Africa. By no means are Africans against the people of France. We are against the colonization of Africa by France. That is what we are against. We don't want that. We love visitors. We love going to France. French people love coming to Africa. We can't deny the foreign exchange revenue they bring. We can't deny that. However, we don't want the colonization of Africa. So guys, that's all for today. I have not much to say. Kindly do consider to subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up, and share the video to spread more awareness about Africa and the story of Africans. That's all for today. See you tomorrow.